Hey, Stonegate family, Jimmy here with Pastor Rodney, and
Hey.
we are coming at you from Stonegate headquarters.
Is there such a thing?
Right here, you're looking at it. This is where.
Yeah, I don't think there's such a thing.
Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough.
Yeah.
A couple weeks ago, I preached a sermon on the topic of homosexuality and the Bible.
Not controversial
Not
at all.
controversial.
Yeah.
Yeah, easy
Everybody-
breezy,
yeah.
beautiful. As you can imagine, that is not only a really live topic, but it has so many pieces to the puzzle. And when you have sub 40 minutes to say some things are going to get
Yeah.
chopped on that chopping
Amazing
block.
how fast 35 or 40 minutes goes.
That is right. So we wanted to grab a few minutes with you guys in this context to just explore a couple of the things that we weren't able to chase on Sunday morning that are very important. At the end of the sermon, I addressed a couple of audiences that this content would impact and to get them thinking about it. But there's other folks that are in the middle of these types of issues that we both felt like, man, let's have a conversation about them. In particular, who we had in mind was, so you have the folks who are Christians, they don't struggle with homosexuality, they've got this issue settled, and they need to think about this issue rightly. Then you have folks maybe outside the fold of Christ who are trying to understand how Christianity thinks about homosexuality, and there's that whole dynamic. But what about the people who love Jesus, are in the family, and also struggle with what we're just going to call same-sex attraction?
Yeah.
How are they to think about this issue? I know for many of my friends even, engaging with this topic can feel discouraging depending on how it's talked about. It can feel like, wait, can I be on the team if, like, in me I find these desires that aren't shared by most of the human population? Is this just the feeling itself? Is that wrong? So there's a lot of live questions here that we just wanted to explore for a little bit. Is that a fair way to frame
Yeah,
kind of
think
what
so.
we wanted to talk about? So maybe, Rod, you can kind of speak to this initially. What might you say to somebody who's dealing with this and saying, I'm also a Christian, how am I to think about this?
Yeah. Maybe framing it in just some encouragements might be a good way to go about it. And first, I would just want to acknowledge that I think there is some uniqueness here that makes this particularly hard in our current day and age. So, I want to empathize with the hardness of that. And I do think there are some encouragements that hearing a sermon like that would probably be appropriate to come back around to and to give. And one of those is I want you to see all of your life like Jesus sees all of your life. And one of the things that I love about the scriptures is that it holds out the possibility of just total life change.
Yeah.
This is part of what the power of the resurrection is meant to show us, that if Jesus can be raised from the dead, there is no issue in our life that can't be radically transformed.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, the Bible has so much realism to it, knowing that it's like Jesus hasn't come back yet.
Yeah.
So we are in a already but not yet tension as a Christian. So yes, there's the possibility of change in every area of our life. And there are going to be some things in our life that are just going to sort of stick with us for the long haul.
Yeah.
And I think that does put a tension in our life that I think most Christians over time, in certain areas of their life, that it's a particular area of temptation or struggle in their life, have a way over time of accepting this is the way life will be forever for me until Jesus comes back.
Yeah.
And I also want to hold out with that realism, the power of the resurrection on the other side to say, regardless of what that area of temptation or struggle is, that if Jesus came out of the dead, there really is the possibility of radical transformation in that area of our life. Whatever the area is that really counts in our life, there is the potential of radical transformation even there in what we struggle with, how temptation enters us, what we're going to be susceptible to. So I want to look at anyone who is struggling with same-sex attraction and say, realism is important. This may be an area that is a particular area of temptation for the long haul. And it may be that through pleading and asking Jesus that he brings some radical freedom in this area, that that would be unexpected.
Yeah.
So that would be one. I would love for anyone in our church family dealing with any sin or any area of temptation in their life to hold out the possibility that Jesus might have radical restoration and transformation and redemption right there in that area.
I think that's great, and I think so. What I'm hearing you say is, yes, and this is maybe new terrain for some of the folks listening. We can and should have a category as Christians for people who have trusted in Jesus, who also find in themselves temptations toward same-sex attraction.
Yes.
I think for a long time, even in just in Christian history, it is that's been a really hard pill for folks to swallow.
Yeah.
So I think it's good to just say it out. If it's true that every Christian will have some degree of broken impulses, proclivities, bents inside them until Jesus returns. If it's true that every Christian is going to have some of that, then it stands to reason that some Christians, that may be expressed inside them as same-sex attraction, and that does not somehow magically disqualify you from being a Christian.
Not at all. Yeah, and differentiating between sin and temptation, those two categories are so important for all of us to kind of carry around in our life. There's two categories. There is something called sin. There's something called temptation. Sin is when we say yes to temptation. But sin is not temptation being present in our life. Is that fair?
Yeah.
So we also, I just maybe as a way to encourage anyone struggling with any particular area of struggle or temptation, is to see that there is a difference between temptation and sin. So we need to see temptation like Jesus does.
That's right.
And these two things are different categories of things.
Yeah. You mentioned at the beginning that we ought to all have a sense of realism, but a sense of hopefulness that God really can change us in such a way that maybe this struggle doesn't show up in us. Maybe we find that, I don't actually have that impulse anymore like I did. Maybe God actually changes my sexual appetites and those types of things in a radical way. We all know stories of folks like that, but we also know lots of stories of folks who haven't had that change of sort of bent internally, but they're still committed to loving Jesus. And I think maybe one last thing to explore is this, okay, well, what does that mean then for a person who, I don't find myself attracted to the opposite sex. I find myself attracted to the same sex. I know that doesn't honor the Lord Jesus. What does life look like for me? What hope can we give to them? What can we say?
Well, maybe if there's a third encouragement when I think about this particular issue, it's that we would all see singleness like Jesus sees singleness. And in the Bible, singleness is really, in a lot of ways, marriage is considered the ordinary life. And singleness is not considered a sub-Christian or a sub-ordinary life, but an extraordinary life. And I think that's got to be seen so clearly for anyone who is struggling with same-sex attraction. And the problem, if it's not seen clearly, then, if singleness is sort of a sub-Christian life, then this moment of, okay, I'm going to live as a single person, giving my whole heart to Jesus, will just feel like a death sentence.
Yes, it will. And
it shouldn't, according to the Bible. It should feel like an extraordinary calling that God has put on someone's life. 1 Corinthians 7 is probably one of those chapters that for anyone who is going to live in their singleness, devoting their life to Jesus, that they would really need to look at and know by heart, because it's got so much encouragement in it for anyone who is walking in a single life right now, and especially in a way where they would like to be married. So 1 Corinthians 7 would be such an important chapter of the Bible to get to know by heart, to help us see singleness the way Jesus does, as an extraordinary life.
Yes. Let me say one last thing to maybe Christians watching this who aren't experiencing that temptation, but you maybe have folks in your church family that you know are wrestling with this. I just want to so invite you. Part of singleness working itself out in a church body is that the rest of the church would do a really great job of being the family that the single community needs. Like I hope that everybody watching would feel an impulse to go, okay, some folks either through being widowed or through experiencing same-sex attraction, not wanting to act on it, or through some other reason they find themselves single. What is my calling to be and to do into their life? And the answer is, move close to them,
Yep.
love them well, invite them into your families, into your life, integrate them in. So I think it's one failing of the church that we have not looked at the single community and gone, no, we want to be your family. The scripture calls us your family. So I hope you would feel an impulse there. Like, do you want to see the single community thrive in your church? Then let's be family to them. Is that fair?
That's totally fair. And if we want to see those with same-sex attraction thrive in our church, we need to make sure the single folks in our church are thriving. So that thread is very...
It's all together.
It's all together. And that actually gives me a chance to say one more thing that I'd like to say for anyone who is struggling with same-sex attraction and Stonegate is your church home. I want to look at you in the eye and say, we are so glad this is your church home. I am so thankful that you're at Stonegate. In a lot of ways, you are enriching us in ways that it would be impossible for you to even know or see. But we are so thankful for you. I'm so glad you're here. And we as pastors and leaders at Stonegate, I want you to know that we are committed to providing a safe place for you. A safe place for anyone who is struggling through whatever that temptation is and whatever that ongoing battle is to walk faithfully with Jesus. We want to be a safe place for everyone in that journey. And so here's really the thing that I would ask from you. If you're watching this and you're struggling with same-sex attraction and Stonegate is your church home, here is my ask, that you would trust us enough to be vulnerable enough to speak honestly about this particular area of your life. That would give us the privilege of walking beside you, which we would just find it to be such a joy to be able to do that. So that would be my ask from you, is that you would trust us enough to be honest about this area of your life so that we can be a help to you and an encouragement to you along the way. So,
Well, Stonegate, we love you. Thanks for watching this. We hope it was helpful. And yes, lean into these truths. They are the truths that are meant to set us free. So until next time, see ya.